So let's talk about the communication process and communication models. So there are several elements to the communication process. First, we have the sender. The sender is the one who encodes the message. We also have the receiver. The receiver is the one that then decodes the message. The message is obviously what's being sent between the two. And messages can be verbal or nonverbal. We also have the channel. The channel is the medium of the message. So this could be via TV, face-to-face, via text message, via email, anything like that that has the channel is the medium of the message. One of the big things that comes between a message is noise. So noise is anything that disrupts the sending of the message. And noise can be a lot of different things. It can be very much physical noise, like hearing somebody drilling outside your door. It can be psychological noise, which we'll see again when we talk about listening later in the semester. Psychological noise, like you have something on your mind, and it's making it really, really, really hard for you to hear what's going on. It can be environmental noise, just general noise of things around us, certain smells, certain things that make it just hard for us to receive that message. So noise always is interference that interferes with the message, and that always makes it a little bit harder for this message to go from sender to receiver. And finally, we have our context or our environment, which also makes a big difference too. And that's just like what's surrounding the communication event. So I'm going to try to illustrate this. I'm going to try to illustrate this within 3 models. I'm going to try to draw this on some paper here. Okay, so the first model is the linear model, and this was the original communication model. So we have our sender, we have our receiver. So we have the sender sends the message to the receiver, and that's it. That seems pretty simple, right? So one example where this still could hold true would be something like TV. On TV, the sender sends the message to the receiver. The receiver doesn't do anything back. There's no sense of feedback. Feedback is another term for any response to the message. So feedback we're going to see again later. That's going to become very important in the next few. So again, it's really one way. Communication is sent and it's received. Maybe. I guess we don't know that for sure. We have the interaction model. In the interaction model, we've got our sender, we've got our receiver, and we've got this back and forth communication. So the sender sends a message, the receiver receives the message, and then sends another message back. It's a back and forth. It's still a fairly linear process, but it's more of a process. We see it's more of a two-way street. Of course, we still have our noise coming through the middle. We have our environment that surrounds it. We have our message that's sent. And we have our channel, which in this case could be something like text messaging, right? The sender sends a message. The receiver receives a message, sends a message back. The receiver may even send feedback back, but still, nothing's happening at the same time. It's very much a back and forth process. So we're being a sender to receiver, and the communication can keep going on for quite a long time, but again, it's still kind of a little choppy. Okay, the transactional model. This is really the model that we use to describe communication, especially in a face-to-face environment. So most of your day-to-day interactions are going to use this transactional model that describe your everyday interactions. So we've got our sender and our receiver, and the sender is sending a message, but at the same time, the receiver is sending feedback back to the sender. So the key here is that we are senders and receivers simultaneously. So while I'm sending a message to you, you are giving me feedback, and I'm being a receiver at the same time I'm sending the message because I'm receiving that feedback. So let me give you an example of this. So I'm talking to you, and I'm explaining the communication model to you, like I am right now, but I'm sitting here right in front of you, pretend. And I'm sitting here, and I explain this and say, this is the transactional model. And you look back at me, and you have the most confused look on your face. You're saying, what? Kind of back to me without actually saying it. I'm receiving that feedback at the same time that I'm talking to you and sending that message. And that's what helps me be able to craft my message, to know that my receiver is not understanding this. I'm going to work on adapting this message while I'm speaking. So I'm sending and receiving at the exact same time. Of course, with this model, we still have our channel, which is usually face-to-face. We still have our noise that comes through the message. And again, this one takes into account feedback, which I said is a very much another key term. We still have our environment, which kind of circles the whole thing. And I, as the sender, am the one encoding the message, while the receiver is the one decoding the message, which basically means I take the information that I want to share and I encode it into language and put it in some sort of form that can be understood. Whereas the receiver is going to decode the message, meaning they're taking it and they're interpreting it in a form that it can be interpreted, basically into language. But again, the key is this all happens simultaneously in the transactional model.